Hello all, and welcome to the 2022 Southeast Collaborative Online Conference. My name is Laurie Thompson, and I am your host for this session. This event is made possible in part by the grant from the Library Services and Technology Act and a grant from the Institute of Museum and Library Sciences. Please feel free to ask questions or to make comments in the chat or interact with other attendees and the speaker within the Whova app during this presentation. And now I'd like to introduce Brian Sherrill from the Art Circle Public Library in Crossville, Tennessee. Thanks for being with us this afternoon, Brian. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Yes, hello everyone. I am Brian Sherrill from the Art Circle Public Library in Crossville, Tennessee. I am the Children's Library Assistant, and I'm also our kind of an unofficial title, Outreach Coordinator. And my background is from being an elementary school teacher. I taught school for 12 years in the county that I live in. I have a master's in curriculum instruction. My favorite subject to teach is science. So I do all sorts of fun outreach programs in area schools, in churches, and also travel outside of the county to go to other places. And as part of that outreach and part of sharing the ideas and wanting to share programs, which brings us to the program that we'll be speaking on today. And this program is on TN LibCahoots Collaboration for Your Virtual Content. Now, since we're here to talk about the dream and the reality that is TN LibCahoots, here's how we're going to tell our story. I'm going to tell you about kind of the history of what TN LibCahoots is working on becoming and what we currently are. We'll talk about how this is currently working, what are some expectations for TN LibCahoots, what are some of the obstacles that we have been facing so far, where that we currently are right now, and also as we're looking forward both throughout the rest of this year and beyond this year, we're going to also be looking at where we are going. So let me ask you guys a question. Did you ever have a good idea? Cynthia Julian Simmons did. Cynthia realized that she was planning virtual programming in a bubble. The amount of work dedicated to virtual programming is the same as doing in-person programming, whether you have 5 people show up or 50 people show up. And for her, she didn't have 50 people show up very often, if ever, for some of her programs. She thought that maybe with a little marketing and sharing with the other Tennessee libraries and the libraries outside of our state in the future, that could improve. She wrote a letter to the state librarian, and the rest is history. For us here at TN LibCahoots, we started with a committee of 4 people. Every idea needs a champion or 2, and we started with 4, which formed a nice committee. Now, again, as I mentioned here, my specialty is in science, so a lot of the programming things that I bring to our committee and things that I like to share are a lot of STEM-based science experiments and science activities. And now that's not the only sort of program that we are sharing. We're sharing a wide variety of programs, and I'll make sure that I leave in the chat a link to our Facebook page so you can kind of see a potential upcoming schedule. And with our committee getting started and discussing ideas, we're trying to find a greater variety and quantity of programming for patrons. We want to make more virtual programming available for patrons across the state. One thing that we have found here throughout our committee of discussing how things were being handled at our respective libraries and places that we work is that while we were working from home, or if we're having to do our summer reading program virtually, we were reaching a larger segment of our patrons that we didn't necessarily see them come to our in-person programs. Some of it may be because a lack of transportation. Some of it may be, for health reasons, or especially with, dealing with the summer reading program for me as an assistant children's librarian. Some of it was, grandparents or fill in the blank relative was keeping the children during the day, and they lived out in an area to where they couldn't bring them to the library for the programming. So handling things virtually certainly allowed us to help take the programming to the children or to the patrons. And it's not just for that. We've noticed this has been true with a variety of the virtual programming that we have been offering. Now, some of our goals that we want to make sure that we increase our patron participation. For a virtual program to take the same amount of work, whether we have 5 people or 50 people attend, or even maybe 500 if it's really successful, we wanted to give the library who would be hosting the program the credit for the participants. We felt that the libraries of all sizes would participate and provide quality programming if we increased attendance. If we have a good idea saying, hey, here's something that you can try, here's a completed program that you could implement at your library, and let's see if that would be something that should help increase your attendance, whether you decide to keep it as a virtual thing or maybe use it as a component with something you're doing live in your own building. For example, here recently, we shared one of my science videos that we did, and we've had just for a sort of beginning sharing program, 95 interactions with how that was done, which for being early in the stages of 10 Lip Cahoots, we thought that's not a bad thing for a start. Now, along with increasing the attendance, we also want to share our virtual expertise. Many libraries were uncomfortable with offering virtual programming. It isn't easy, and the potential technical difficulties are intimidating. But if we could share our expertise, it might not be so scary. I can share my expertise when it comes to science. Do you have someone that works on your staff that's really good with plants? We're heading into the spring. Maybe you'd want to have your patrons or had people that's out there to where they could talk and say, okay, what would be a good plant that would grow very well in this area that I live? Very potentially, especially at this time of year, and with the way that the real estate market is, we have people coming in all the time asking for new cards, the library cards. We have a big influx of people every single day here. I imagine it's probably true in your area as well. You have some people that are, they like to garden, but they're not really sure on what plants work well in the area where you are. And so having a virtual program or, a little add-on that you could add to an in-person program, kind of saying, hey, we live in this zone for plants and we could share this program, and that would allow us to help the new patrons see that, oh, okay, now that I live in this area, this is something that I can work with. These are some plants that work here. And again, that's just an example of something that you could do, depending on what time of year it is. If it's during the holiday season, you could share, have someone do virtual cooking and talk about a variety of different recipes from different places, but we're just, if you look at the people that you have on your staff, what are some hobbies or some things that that they work with that you could film and have something that could be shared that would be something fun or you think that other patrons would enjoy. One of the things that I do with the team group is we kind of have an online forum back and forth to discuss the latest comic book movies or just stories that are happening to go along, that could be handled either virtually via a video in Zoom or maybe, through something more along the lines of Discord. But of course, you'd have to make sure you have someone that could monitor all that. But, check and see. You never know what some of your volunteers or your members on staff may have some hidden talents or expertise that would work out really well to become part of a virtual program or be something that you could share with others. Now, with all this in mind, we're also wanting to try to attract a higher quality of instructor. Speakers are easier to persuade if they're preparing for a larger audience. After all, wouldn't you put in a little bit more effort if you knew that you were going to be expecting a larger audience? And the same thing goes along with here as you're talking to your patrons or your staff members or your volunteers. You can say, hey, it's not only going to be limited to whatever we have live here in person. This is something that we're going to make available in a virtual setting so that we could be reaching other institutions all across our state, or, eventually also all the way across the nation. And so, you could really have some things that could really grow and hopefully be a stupendous success with how things are shared, or depending on what your topic is. Now, we also want to expand the reach and offerings for our smaller libraries. Speaking on behalf of the state of Tennessee here, we have small libraries that are especially reluctant to offer virtual programming, mainly because 40% of the libraries in Tennessee have 3 or fewer employees. That's a really small library staff. We want to help them out because obviously if it's just 2 or 3 people that are trying to do everything for the adults, everything for the teens, everything for the children, if we can provide something in a virtual setting, if we can say, hey, here's this whole little virtual thing that you have that you can try to use, that could hopefully help them be, oh, this is something I can run. They've got the planning and everything done. I can use this at this time. This is going to be very helpful. And that's what we're trying to do. Now, as we're trying to do this, we have some other very important considerations that we want to keep in mind. One of which is we want to try to let whoever the hosting library is know that they're not going to incur any additional expense for hosting the program. We don't want to make things any more difficult. One of the things that I try to focus on the science activities that I plan is I try to make all of my materials be very low cost and very easy to find. Because I know, again, especially in the state of Tennessee, with all of our low staff, or with 40% having the 3 or fewer on their staff, they're going to have very limited time to gather and hunt for these materials. So we try to make this as easy as possible. And, if you wanted to promote a Kahoot program at your library, we wanted it to be easy, very easy. Our goal is that it'll only take a non-hosting library about 5 minutes or less to add the program to their list of events. Where we have all our events listed. In addition to that, we'll have some things that you'll be able to pull out to use in your social media feeds. Again, going back to what I was saying for my science activities, in addition to a flyer that has all the information about what it is and what will be done, I also provide a materials list. That way they'll know what they'll need if they're going to be trying to do, one of my activities, and we're going to try to keep that be the same as we work through with all of our other programs. Now, with all these things that we are hoping for, we are driving for, we are working on moving forward, there are also some things that we didn't want. Now, we have some predicted obstacles, of course. We felt very strongly that we want to, all of our potential hosting libraries, or this is something that you're considering, we want you to understand and know that we are not looking for the virtual programming to take the place of your live in-person programming. We don't want to be a substitute. We want to be something that can help accentuate. We want to be something that will help add to any of the live programming that you're having at your library or institution. We want to make sure that we are not a substitute. We are something that we're here to help. We want to accentuate what you're doing. Now, the word obstacle, it's not a dirty word. It's not a bad thing. Some of the things that we've run into as we've been trying to get this off the ground in Tennessee is, we've had to convince some libraries this is a good idea. Most are accustomed to operating as individuals, and some of them, unfortunately, are not team players. We have some that they'll say, well, we have this program. This is a program that we always do. We've been doing this program for 20 years, but it's our program. This isn't something that we want to share. We don't want other libraries to do this. They're worried about other libraries potentially stealing some of their good ideas or what they feel is something that makes their library special. Now, another big obstacle that we run into is funding. And right now, There's no funding to get this off the ground. It's truly a volunteer program right now. We're all volunteering on our committee, all the places that we've talked to about the potential for hosting the programs and the programs themselves that we're trying to host. It's all on a voluntary basis right now. And also, time. As I've mentioned, we are all volunteers. We all have our own jobs and everything that we also are trying to take care of in addition to help our Teen Lip Cahoots grow. But, marketing, it's also a challenge. The marketing itself is fairly straightforward. Like, for example, my science activities, I have the flyer that lists, what it is, a little bit about the science behind whatever the activity is. I have the materials list. So I have everything that you would need to take and go to get it started at your own library. We in the state of Tennessee, we have a listserv that we can put out notifications. And so all of our, member libraries on the listserv will get to see, oh, Teen Lip Cahoots is going to have a program. As I mentioned, our most recent one that was back about mid-February had 95 interactions with that, which for one of our beginning programs, we thought it's not a bad first, step, in the beginning things. And with addition to our listserv for libraries, and most of our libraries, they all have, as most places do nowadays, their own social media plans. It's the time required that's the challenge. Now, another thing that we faced is no other state is doing this. This is something that we should be scared about. To the best of our knowledge, and we've kicked it around for a while, no other state is doing this. Is there a reason? Should we be scared? Is Cahoots a bad idea, or is it an idea that has never been possible or considered before? Is there an opportunity now that COVID makes us more tolerant of these Zoom meetings and events? Is there not a market for any kind of additional media? Or, are we ahead of our time? Will this work in 20 years, but not now? Libraries in some countries are truly lifelong learning centers for the entire community. We're almost there, but not quite. Over these last couple of years, we've all gotten more accustomed to, talking to the screen, talking through the screen, having this virtual component. We know that we've reached people that we have not been able to reach live and in person. This is something we want to continue. We don't see that, this is a way that is working. We are reaching people. We want to keep this going to hopefully be able to reach more people, both across, our state of Tennessee, across all of North Carolina, and as we, eventually grow it across the country as well. And again, as things are moving forward, there's all this talk of, Meta for Facebook and all these different, if you have Oculus and the virtual reality headsets that you'll be able to tour around, and eventually it's going to be sort of like the Oasis and Ready Player One, where everyone's basically living all of their life online and interacting 100% online and doing very little in the real world. We're a far piece off from that, but we want to try to offer things that are educational and things that could be beneficial for all of our patrons that come in to our facilities. And again, we really do feel that it's really important for, think right now, we're heading into tax time. Do you guys have an AARP that comes to your libraries or other places to do tax for your senior citizens? There's some that's being handled via Zoom in some areas because you have some people that are shut-ins or may not be able to travel to where they need to go. Could you be doing sort of a prep work class through something like Teen Lip Cahoots to where you'd be able to work with whoever these potential people are? So all these ideas be bouncing around for things that we could have to help make this as successful as we can have it be here moving forward. Now, how do you participate? If you're thinking about, oh, we have something that we'd love to share or have something that's on Teen Lip Cahoots, if you are sponsoring a program, you'll do everything you normally would do, preparing for live program or virtual programming, plus list it on TN Lib Cahoots. And I'll be sure to leave in the chat a link to our program submission page. And once your program is accepted by the Cahoots committee, we want to avoid duplication and any other issues. You'll be asked to provide program details, the paragraph for marketing, talking about what the program is, what is your goal for the program. And you'll be asked to also to have prepared maybe a social media post. What's some things that you'd like to have that? If you see a program on the Cahoots website that you would like to share, grab any marketing provided, including the social media post, brand it for your library or institution, and feel free to share away. Now, again, with all of this that we're talking about, with participating and making sure we still maintain our virtual presence with our programming online, because we know that we're reaching an audience. We want to maintain that audience and hope that we can make that audience grow. Our TN Lib Cahoots program, we are in our sort of beginning baby steps. Our first programs have been slow, and there's a lot of reasons for this. It takes a lot of time. We've not wanted to trot on any toes or make any missteps. Some libraries are very proud of their programs and they don't want to share, or they're either hesitant to participate because it might mean more work, or that it's a really super good program that they're worried might get stolen, or they're just reluctant because this is all new. Sometimes it's kind of like, well, this is the beginning thing. Before I get really involved, before I get really connected with this, I want to make sure that it's going to work. I want to see that I see other people that are utilizing this. I want to make sure that I see that I have other people that are sharing their programs and they're utilizing things that the TN Lib Cahoots website and everything has. So with our baby steps, we want to talk some about what's next for TN Lib Cahoots as we're trying to make sure and encourage people to share their virtual programming. We're building a website and we're working with a few beta programs to smooth out the rough spots. In the meantime, if you have an upcoming virtual program you'd like to share, and you don't have to be in the state of Tennessee to participate in this, just complete our submission form, which I'll make sure again that I have over in the chat. Now, we're also going to be partnering with the Tennessee Library Association to help with the recording storage, because that's another issue that we've run into in the past is where do we have that we can store all these virtual components and programs that people have. If we want to have something like we all go back and watch webinars and things like that, the recordings of those after they have completed, if you're not able to attend that during its live time. So that's something that we're working toward. Like my science programs or things videos that I've shared that are also available on my library's YouTube page. So is something that's being shared, is that something that comes from other libraries' YouTube pages or other places like that? So we're having to look and talk about our storage issues right now to make sure that we'll have that available if someone wants to come back to that. Now, we also are partnering with the Tennessee Library Association because we feel that it's going to help give this program some more credibility as we're getting started. We're gathering information on programs that the TN Lib Cahoots can offer for libraries, programs from other state agencies might want to offer, our strong possibilities. We're more than happy to take suggestions for what are some programs that we could share. One of the programs that we are considering is from Vanderbilt University. They have on staff an expert in historical cookbooks. We think that might make for a fine program. People wanting to prepare a period accurate meal, or just be interesting to see what are some old ingredients, what are some things that we could substitute nowadays. Also, the Network of National Libraries of Medicine might make a good partner as well. They have lots of programming for librarians and might want to work directly with patrons on a larger scale. Again, we can only reach a certain amount of people, both in person and virtually. And as long as we keep improving and keep adding more virtual content out there. We're definitely going to continue to reach patrons that we haven't reached live and in person. I know that, again, all of us can say that we've seen that happen over these last 2 years with things that we have tried. At least I certainly feel that we all can say that. Now, we've suffered a few setbacks, one being that we've lost our Zoom accounts with the larger seating, but we're resilient, and we're working on a solution. The other big setback is time. People who champion ideas are hard to come by, and they tend to be busy people. They're championing other ideas as well. This takes a ton of time to get off the ground. Now, with our 10 Lip Cahoots, please remember that we're volunteers with tons of other responsibilities. We've come a long way, and we have a way to go. Now, I know that I've mentioned a lot that, I share a lot of science programs, and I wanted to make sure that I include right here what it was that I have shared, in case some of you were curious. So as an example, I always do STEM or STREAM-based hands-on activities. And I try to have it be based on whatever the time of year it was. What I did for the month of February was we did something, I'm sure you're all familiar with the Mentos and Candy Hearts experiment, or Mentos and Diet Coke experiment. I did it with Candy Hearts and clear Sprite. You can get the same result, but it's on a smaller scale. We use 16.9 ounce bottles. We put the Candy Hearts in the balloon. We went through the CO2, helped to inflate it. The main topic of this experiment was nucleation. That's the name of the process of creating bubbles, CO2 bubbles. I will make sure that I include in the chat here a link to that YouTube video that's from my library's YouTube page. We'll also have the flyers and things are in the Kahoots for when I've done something like that. In case you're wondering, jelly beans are also something that will work. It doesn't just have to be the Mentos, but if that is something that you'd be interested in sharing, I'd be feel free to contact me or anything like that, and we can talk about other things. But that's just an example of something of a program from 10 Lip Cahoots that you could share. Now, as I mentioned, please remember that we are volunteers with tons of other responsibilities. We have come a long way. We do have a way to go. And I wanted to say thank you very much. And we appreciate your questions and comments. Thank you very much for being here today. I appreciate that you took time to be here to listen to my presentation. And I'll be very happy to answer any questions about 10 Lip Cahoots that you may have.
Well, thank you very much, Brian. That was outstanding. I really appreciate it. We'll take questions now in the chats because Brian is with us this afternoon. So if you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to the speaker or to the conference hosts using the Whova app. An evaluation is provided with the conference session resources, and we welcome your feedback. So Brian, I'm going to open up the chat. Can you see that now?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to put your links in there now, or do you want to wait until we are actually live?
I would like to wait until we were actually live.
That's fine. The things that we don't talk about before we hit the record button. So we're open now for questions and comments. Thank you very much. And I'm going to stop the recording, Brian.
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone.